Hello everyone and welcome to episode 17 of our Raspberry Pi series, and in today's episode we're going to be installing Sonarr on a Raspberry Pi. Now in our previous couple of episodes we've installed NZBGet and we basically configured that to work with Usenet and their private service. We then, last episode, we installed Radar, that's for movies. We configured that to work with NZBGet and to automate downloads of films, etc. So we're going to be installing Sonarr today. We're going to be configuring that to work with NZBGet. Just a quick disclaimer guys before we get started today. We do not condone piracy in any shape or form. If you guys are downloading from Usenet, any files that you download, please make sure you have the correct licensing to do so and that you own the original content. Our series is just covering this side of things because it's basically showcasing what the Raspberry Pi can do, and that's what our whole series is about. If you guys have followed our previous episodes, then you should have a similar setup to us. We do have a bit of a custom setup, so it might be beneficial to go back through and watch our episodes. If you guys don't want to do that today, what you're going to need installed is Docker, Portainer, and you're going to need to have NZBGet installed and ready to be used and configured with Usenet and ready to be used with Sonarr. If you need any resources from today's episode, including the stack or any of the command list, you can find a link in the resources section below, which will take you to a blog post which will have all the commands and the stack from today's episode. In our next episode, we are going to be covering Lidar. Lidar works with Usenet and NZBGet in a similar way to what Radar and Sonarr do, but it's for music. We'll be showing you how to use that and configure that and install that on your Raspberry Pi. So stay tuned for that. So if you guys are ready, I'm ready to crack straight on today, and we're going to talk a little bit first about what Sonarr is. So this is Sonarr. Sonarr is a TV series monitor. It can also categorize and index all of your TV series. You can set this to basically automatically download episodes of series that are coming up in the future. You can also use it to go out on the internet and search for TV series that you are currently watching, or even previous ones, old ones. As long as these files are available on Usenet, these will be able to download to your client. So within Sonarr, you can set up your favorite TV series. You can set the format of them files. You can also set the file size that you want to be downloaded. So you get a lot of modular control over that aspect of things, which is really quite good. And you can set this to automatically do all this without even touching it. So you just add it, it automatically search for it. It also has a built-in calendar to show you the episodes that are up and coming. So that, again, it can automatically scrape them off the internet. Now, it is an open source project and it's very similar to Radar. I think it even may be from the same people. I'm not sure, but it does exactly the same thing. It's cross-platform. It's available on Windows, Linux, Mac OS. It's also compatible with Synology and QNAP NAS drives. And of course the Docker container, which we're going to be using today. So this is the container that we're going to use today. It's from Linuxserver.io and it's been updated 3 days ago, and it's had over 1 billion pulls, which is quite impressive for a Docker container. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at the network map that I made a couple of weeks ago to see how Sonarr fits in with our overall configuration. So looking at our network map, you can see that we are today installing Sonarr, and we're just going to configure Sonarr to work with a Usenet indexer. So you're going to need access to indexes. The more indexes you have, the more chance you have of finding the files that you're looking for. We're going to be using one that we can get access to because it's open for registration. That is NZBGeek. If you guys followed our previous episode, you would have signed up to NZBGeek, which is open for registrations. That is a Usenet indexer. There's many indexes out there. NZB Planet, things like that. You need to go out and have a look for yourself. But as you are aware, they are paid for services. It's not something that we are affiliated to, and whatever you guys choose, that is your choice. Now, you can think of Usenet indexes in layman's terms, to try and keep it simple, even though it doesn't quite work that way, but you can think of it as a search engine, a little bit like Google. Basically, that indexes sites. Usenet will have NZB files on a forum-based type news board. They're called news groups, and they will have links to the files that are stored on Usenet. So basically what happens when you search in Sonarr here, it will go to the Usenet indexer and say, do you have any NZB files of this file that I'm asking for? And obviously in here you're going to have set criteria like file size, format, etc. It will look for them NZB files. It will then pull back what you've requested in Sonarr. If it's doing it automatically, it will pull back, within the criteria that you've set. It will pull that file down. It will send the NZB through to NZBGet, which will then go through the Usenet provider, and it will download the folder from the private servers using your Usenet provider's access. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. If you are ready now, we're going to go and SSH into our Raspberry Pi, and we're going to set up some folders so that it works with our Docker Compose file. in our stack for Portainer. So if you guys are ready, let's crack on and let's install Sonarr on our Raspberry Pi. So before we SSH into our Raspberry Pi, I'm just going to have a quick look at today's Docker Compose stack that we're going to use. And as you can see, it's from the Linuxserver.io image that we looked at before. Now, we've got a couple of custom folders in here. And the reason why I like to separate my content is if, obviously, I have children in my house and they like to watch child-friendly content. So I like to put all their stuff into one folder. So I have a kids' TVs folder for all the kids' TV series. So obviously, I'll use a normal TV series folder for all the adult content, which might not be appropriate for children. Now, these are optional. You don't have to install these at all. You can just, as long as you've got the TV series or the TV folder, you'll be good to go. I'm going to put an extra mount to a kids TV folder. So when I set up my Plex server, I can give that kids TV folder access to the certain account that I use for my children. So it keeps them a little bit safe and it gives us a little bit extra layer of control over the content. So we're just going to minimize this for the minute and we're going to SSH into our Raspberry Pi. So I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see what we're doing. So we're going to SSH into our Raspberry Pi using SSH, TAC-P for the port. We've got a custom port and a custom setup. We're going to use our custom username that we set up and our Raspberry Pi IP address. And we're going to return that in. And we're going to put our password in. Okay, so now we're in. We're just going to clear that out. And we're going to navigate to our app data folder. If you guys have followed our previous episodes, we put all our containers into an app data folder just to keep them all in one place. So we store ours on our blue drive, and it's got a bit of a wacky name. So I'm going to go cd tac srv dev 6. Okay, so that is our blue drive. So let me just pull this out a little bit more. And we have an app data folder in there, as we said before. And we're going to cd into that, so we've moved into that directory. So I'm going to clear this out, and I'm going to put ls so we can see what's in there. And as you can see from last week, it's got radar, and it's got our NZBGet in there. So we're going to make a directory here as per our stack. So we want this config file here. So we're going to create that in this location. So we are going to create, first of all, a Sonarr folder. So we're going to make directory, and then call it Sonarr. And then we're going to cd into that Sonarr folder. And we're going to make another directory in here called config. And then we're going to cd into that config file so we can get the absolute path. And then we're going to go pwd to print working directory. And that's pwd. And then we are going to get the full path that we're going to need for our stack. So we can take this now and copy it. And we can paste that into our first line here under volumes. So anything left of the colon is outside of the container. Anything to the right is within the container, just so you guys know. We've covered that in previous episodes. So we're just going to paste that in here now. So we've got our location here to our config file. The next folder we're going to need is our downloads folder. And if you guys, again, have been following along with our series, you should already have that set up. Now we have that above our app data folder. So this is the location for our downloads folder. And there you are. It's got completed immediately in there. So we're going to go print working directory in there. So the downloads folder is just for processing. So when you download a TV series, for instance, obviously if that is a kids TV series, it will process that in the downloads folder. It will rename it. It will then move that into the kids TV series or the kids TV folder for you automatically. This isn't the landing resting point, but it is still good to have this downloads folder on a drive that's big enough to process these large files that are coming down. Okay, so now we're going to go into our downloads folder. And we're going to make a directory. And we're going to call it TV. And then we're going to make another directory and we're going to call it Kids TV. Okay, so we've got both of them files there that you can see. So we're going to go into the TV folder first and we're going to get the absolute path, which is here by using print working directory, pwd. We're going to copy and paste that into our next line. So that's going to go in here. So that's that set. And now finally, we're going to get this Kids TV folder. We're going to go up one file path, and then we're going to go into Kids TV, and then we're going to do pwd to print the working directory again. So that's the last thing we've got to do, and we're going to copy and paste that into our final line. Right, so you guys are gonna need to know what your time zone is. TZ stands for time zone. You can find that from within Portainer, which is here, and go to date and time. It'll tell you here the exact format that you need to put into your stack. So mine's Europe and London. So Europe/London. So that's correct for me. And now you guys are going to need to know your PUID and your PGID. So you can find that by going into your SSH session and then just doing ID and then the username that you use with Docker. So mine's user1. And there you go. The UID and the GID is what you're going to need. So that's the group ID and the user ID. So mine's 1001 and 100. So that's both set correctly for me. So if you guys are ready, you can copy and paste this into memory. And now what we've got to do is move it into Portainer. And then we need to click on stacks and then add stack. Now we're going to name our stack Sonarr. And we're going to paste our Docker Compose file now into here that we've configured. Just double checking everything is okay. Is that small case? I want them all to be small case. That's fine. Okay, right then. So we're going to come down here and we're going to click deploy the stack. And now that's finished, we're going to go to containers. And then we're going to go down the line to Sonarr. And we can see it's on port 8989. So we're going to put in our Raspberry Pi IP address. And then we're going to go on port 8989. So it's not ready yet. So we just got to give it a second to boot up. So we can check in here. It will tell you. There you are. Starting web servers, what we're going to see. So that should be working now. So we can refresh this and it should load up. So you now have Sonarr running on your Raspberry Pi. All we've got to do now is configure it. So the first thing we need to do is to come into system. And we can see that it has no indexes installed and no download client. So that's basically what we're going to be doing now to configure it. So the indexer we are going to use is NZBGeek. We signed up last week. A lot of the Usenet indexes are paid for, and not just paid for, but you also got to have an invite to get into a lot of the different ones online. So you need to find some way of getting access to them. You can find it on Reddit maybe, or through some forums, maybe even Facebook groups. So that's how you can get into these different groups. But we're just going to be using NZBGeek today. We're just going to presume that this account is a fully functional paid subscription. I have a API key from one of my other accounts that I have that I'm going to be using in Sonarr today to get this to work correctly. So if you guys haven't signed up to NZBGeek, then you need to head to nzbgeek.info. Guys, sign up, and you will need to pay the subscription on there, you know, to get the API key so that you can get access to the indexer. So the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to create an indexer. So we're going to go to settings, and we are going to go into indexes. So we're going to click the plus sign, and then where it says News Nav, we're going to click the presets here, and we're going to go down to NZBGeek. Okay, so what you're going to need to do now is where you are in your NZBGeek, you're going to need to go to your account here, and then click on My Account. And then basically here, your Geek key is your API key. And what you'd need to do is click on View, and then that will give you your API key. Obviously, I don't have subscription, so I'm going to be using a different API key that I'm going to get from my account. So once you guys have your API key, you just come back into Sonarr, and you will need to paste it in here. So I'm going to put my API key in here, and I'm going to click on Test. And what you should see down here is it says it's succeeded. So that means it can communicate with the API on NZBGeek. So any searches that I now do within Sonarr, it will be able to use that as an index. So the final thing you need to do is click on Save. And there you are. It's now configured. Now if we go back to our system here, next thing it said is no download client is available. So the download client we're going to be using is NZBGet. It is here. We configured that and set it up a couple of episodes ago. So if you guys don't have that installed, please go back to that previous episode and have a look at how to do that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add it. So go into settings, and then we're going to come to download client, and basically it's on port 6789, and it's on our Raspberry Pi, which is the IP 192.168.2.5. Whatever your Raspberry Pi's IP address is, you're going to need it now. So we're going to click on the plus sign, and we're going to click on NZBGet. We're going to name it NZBGet. And the host is not localhost. It's going to be 192. So it's going to be your Raspberry Pi's IP address. That's ours. And it's going to be on port 6789. We changed our username and password. If you guys have done that on your NZBGet client, then you're going to need to put in your custom password. So mine was admin. And under category here, you need to change this to TV. Now we set this up, when we set up NZBGet, we created a category for Sonarr. So you guys are going to need to go back into NZBGet, go to settings, and go down to where it says categories. And you're going to need to create a category by clicking on add another category. Okay. If you've already set up the TV one, you don't need to do this from our previous episodes, but you will need to do this if you haven't. So you click on add category, and then you'll name it TV with capital letters T and a V. And then when you finish that, you'd click on save all changes. So we've already done that in the previous episodes. I'm not going to save them changes. Make sure that that's capital as well, because it's case sensitive. And then what we're going to do now, we've got all that configured correctly. We're going to click on test. So it says testing NZBGet succeeded. So that means it's all set up, ready to work. So what we're going to do now is we're going to set up the profiles that we want to use. So we come into settings and click on profiles. And these are the profiles that you can use. So I personally use a NVIDIA Shield as a Plex streamer. So I like to stick around 720 1080p because that's kind of comfortable with that. I know you can use 4K, but the file size becomes very large. Sometimes it can be quite unmanageable, especially with TV series. So I'm going to use the 720 1080p profile. Now within here, it already has presets already set up for different formats within the 1080p and the 720. So these are already to go. So these are default already set up for you. You don't even have to do anything more to these profiles. If you're wanting to set up a custom profile, which you can, and you can name this whatever you want, and you can set whatever formats that you want to grab up to 2160p. You can basically set them up in here. And so if you wanted to have a Blu-ray, you just wanted Blu-rays 2160, you can set up a custom profile for that exact format. If you just wanted to keep it small and you only wanted, you know, HD TV 720, you can set that, and you can just have one. So this could be your custom profile, and you just use that for that one file format. So yeah, you've got a lot of control over the file formats that you want. Now this default settings for me is perfect. I'm looking for 720 1080p. So what I want to do now is I want to control the file size. I don't want to use too much space on my hard drive, especially not with TV series, because as I said, you know, you get a lot of episodes in a TV series, so they can easily, very quickly eat up your space. So we're going to control that now. So we're going to go to quality, and within here, so if you just quickly, if we just go back and look at the profiles, so we are going to be dealing with Blu-ray 1080p, WebDL 1080p, Blu-ray 720, WebDL 720, HDTV 1080, and HDTV 720. So we're going to need to come into quality, and these are what we're going to need to edit. So whatever you set in here will set the precedent for anything that's downloaded through Usenet. It will set the file size to make sure that them are not going over, so you're not downloading something that's 5-6 gig per episode. You know, you can set this down. So what I tend to set this for, so we're looking at, let's say, HD 720. So we can move this little slider down. So this is the 60-minute. So as you can see, the file size comes down there. So we're going to bring that right down. So just for a 60-minute episode with HDTV, I don't want it to be any bigger than, say, 2 gig. So I'm going to set that at 2 gig. So the 60 minutes is going to be 2 gig. So anything that's an hour long will be a maximum of 2 gig. And anything that's a half an hour long will be a maximum of 1 gig. So what you need to do now is go through every single file format that is in your profile. So you want to go through the list now for all the 720 and the 1080p and change these to a file size that suits your storage capacity. So I'm going to leave that to 260 for an hour. 1.5 gig for a half an hour. So that should be sufficient enough. And we're going to go down again. So 720p here. So we're going to do the same again. So 260. And we're going to go down again to the next line, which is 720 here. Set that down to 260. And here, WebDL again. This 1080p is what we're going to on our profile list. And this one's on our profile list too, the Blu-ray. Bring that down to 60. And I think that's about it. So what you've got to do now is click on save to save the quality size. That's brilliant. That's all saved. So now nothing will go over these file format sizes that you've set. So what we're going to do as a final step is we need to just click on settings, and we're going to click under here where it says renaming, episode renaming. We're going to click yes to episode rename. That's basically what you want. You want this to be the series plus the year that the series was out, then the series episodes, like that. That way that Plex will be able to index them folders that you've added, and your episodes will show up on your Plex TV, or even any other indexer that you might use. I mean, there's alternatives to Plex, but they will be able to see that them files exist because they're following the right naming convention. So once you've done that, we're just going to come back to the top and click on save. Okay, so we're now ready to download our first TV series. So we're going to search for our TV series. And then we're going to press enter to search. And it's going to provide a list for us. Okay, so what we're going to do in here is we're going to click on path. And we're going to add a different path. So what we need to do now is add the two folders that we set up. The kids TV folder and the TV folder. So we need to let these, basically once you set these up once and you add a different path, every time you go to add a new series, they will be there in this list. So in this path list, they will be there. So you've only got to do this once. So click on add a different path. Okay. And then we're going to go into our browse, and we're going to browse down, and we're going to add TV. And then we're going to click OK. Right. And then press the green tick. So there you are. Now it's in our list, TV, and we're going to add the kids one whilst we're here as well. Now we're not going to use the kids ones for this TV series that I've downloaded because it's not really appropriate for their age. But I'm just adding this now, so later on when I go to add a TV series for children, it will come up in the path file list. So we're just going to click on browse again, and we're going to scroll down to where it says kids TV, which is there, and we're going to click on OK. So we're going to click the green tick box now. So that's all close off. And we're going to make sure that this says TV now. Okay. So what you can do is you can click on monitor. So it will basically look for, so basically you can click on monitor to all. So it will monitor all the episodes to make sure that they fit your criteria that you're putting in here. So even if you've downloaded previously episodes and you have them in the folder, this will check the episodes you've already downloaded, and it will say, does this match the profile that is set? That it doesn't match the file size, and if it doesn't, then it will go out there, grab what you have set, and it will replace the files that are there, which is absolutely amazing. So what we're going to do is, so if you're watching a series that has finished, you should put all, and make sure, or missing is probably the best, because if it's not in your folder, it will look at all the missing folders, that all the missing files that you don't have, all the missing episodes you don't have, and it will download them. If you already downloaded a couple of episodes, you might want to put all, so that it will check through everything that's in there. If you know that them file formats already fit your profile criteria, then you just click on missing, and then any episodes that are missing, it will do it. The next thing you need to select is your profile. So this is the one that we set up, which is the 720p 1080p. We're going to leave these two fields as default. So what you can do now is you can press the plus sign to just add that series to your catalogue, but we're going to click on the add and search for missing episodes. So that will actively add that to our group now, and it'll go out there now through the indexer, and it will look for any files that match our criteria that we've set. And if it finds any, it will download it. So what we're going to do now is come back to our home page here. So you can see now that our series has been added, and under activity, you can see that it's grabbing the episodes and starting to bring them down through NZBGet. So that is exactly what we want to see. So yeah, it's all working as we expected to. So to remove a series and all the files that it downloads, you can click on the series itself, which will show you a nice graphic. It shows you everything to do with that series, and it also shows you all the files that you have downloaded. You can do manual searches too through here if you choose. So basically, if you do an automatic search, it doesn't find some files that's in your criteria. You might want to do a manual search, and because you might find a file that's similar to your criteria but just slightly out of what you've set. So you'll be able to manually download that. So to get rid of this episode, all we need to do is click on edit series. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and click on delete, and it says delete all files. We're going to click on yes and then delete. So this brings us to the end of today's episode. If you guys enjoyed it and got some benefit out of it, please think about hitting that like button, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be notified of any uploads that we upload to YouTube. So also in the description box below, as well as on our website, we have Amazon affiliate links. We have outsourced all the best products that work and are compatible, that work with our Raspberry Pi series. If you guys use any of them links, it's at no extra cost to you, but we do get a little bit of commission back from these sales, and we do appreciate and thank all those people that have used our links so far. So our channel is growing. It's now reached 300 plus subscribers. I'd like to thank every single one of you who has subscribed, and we really do appreciate the support. So all that leaves me to say now is I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.